right, everyone. We're here with another production of Comic Book Advocates. I brought on two amazing guests to be part of this discussion. ComicBookAdvocates.com presents team building and how to actually get it done. This is something that a lot of creators stumble upon, especially earlier in their careers, make a lot of mistakes, and actually hurt a lot of people's relationships early on because they just don't know how to proceed. So I brought on Chuck, who has we were just talking about it. He doesn't even know how many credits he has, how many people he's worked with. Like, he couldn't even tell you how many different creators he's been connected to. So he's the perfect person to talk about this. And Dee has actually been a project manager within the advertising field and now has project managed comics. And she's at a point where she's got enough under her belt that I wouldn't say that she's new at this at all, but she could definitely ask some questions from Chuck in the room. I'll be hosting this evening. If you don't know who I am, I don't know why you're here right now, because this is mostly on my channel. Maybe Chuck will give us a share and then 1,000 people will come watch the indie darling that he is. So welcome you guys to the show. So let's get right into it. Chuck, how do you build a team in this current age?
Oh, I mean, at the end of the day, the word I will probably keep coming back to is research. And research it's a wide spanning word. It can go from, checking Facebook and Twitter and, ArtStation and all that kind of stuff and looking for people. But a lot of it is also just talking to other creators. Hey, man, we're looking for an art style that's like this. And I know that you've worked with some people, is there anyone that you can trust that you can recommend? So it's a lot like that. And I think the recommendations, especially when it's someone that you trust, that's the absolute best way to build your team.
Now, one of the things that I don't want to get heavy into this evening is because we know someone who does it far better and is way more advanced than me, contracts. You should have a contract. And I've said it recently, and I still mean it. Contracts are the new age condom for creators. It protects everybody. So to find out how to be properly protected, go over to Gamal Hennessy. I've got two places for you to check out. First, you should be part of the Creative Contract Consulting.com. It is a great place to learn about contracts and all of the ins and outs of the legal profession from Gamal Hennessy. And then we are going to be talking about the Creative Contract Consulting, and that is going to be the site where he actually does the Comic Book Publishing Institute, where there's a lot of information that goes beyond even legal stuff. These are two great resources, and we're not going to talk about contracts. We're going to send you to Gamal and in his very legal hands, and you guys can go there. So that's off our plate. Dee, did you have any follow-ups?
No, I agree. Gamal's the place to go for legal advice and contracts. The man's got the market covered as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't really go to too many other people. One of the things that I did want to ask you, Chuck, is you mentioned a whole bunch of places where you go, like, to find other creators that you want to work with. What's really the first step? Like how do you feel comfortable reaching out to someone or having someone reach out to you when maybe you haven't done it before or you don't really know what the protocol is for, like, hey, I love your art. Come work for me. Like, what do you say? How do you approach somebody when that happens?
You know what? I think really just like you said, start with the compliment. That's the best way. Hey, I saw your work, really enjoy it a lot, really appreciate it. I'm doing a project where I think your art style would work really well. Are you open? Like, is your schedule open for work right now? And what if so, what kind of a budget? What's your page rate and whatnot, if you don't mind my asking. Mm-hmm. Getting that stuff out and right away, it tells them you mean business, you're serious, because a lot of times someone will come to you and say, hey man, I love what you do, I want to make a comic with you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I love that. Cool, yeah, we'll collaborate, and I'll write and you'll draw and then we'll sell it. And it's like, oh, no. Like, yeah. That's when most artists go no. So if you tell them right away, I'd love to hear your page rate, then they know, cool, this person is serious, and they're even if the page rate is something that you can't even come near and touch, you can just go, oh wow, you know what? Like, you could just be nice and just be like, cool, yeah, you're worth it, man, but I'm afraid my budget's way tighter than that. So, but thank you anyways. I really appreciate it. And if my budget ever gets better, hopefully we can talk again. That way you've opened up the bridge and we can always have the conversation again, either when my budget goes up or maybe when your prices drop.
Right, right. Well, and there's highs and lows for artists too. So, you'll get one year where, you've got everything coming in and you've got to price yourself out of certain projects. I get that. I've done it before. It sucks to be able to say, look, in order to pay rent, I've got to make sure that I'm making this much money. So this is my page rate. And you got to look at people and be like, I can't afford that. Like, dude, I'm sorry. Maybe now's not the time. And then, a year from now, you've got a little nest egg, but you maybe don't have as many jobs coming in. You go back to that guy who had a great story and be like, let's see if we can work this out. Like, how's your budget now? Maybe I can go a little lower because I liked your work. And so it's always a negotiation, which I love.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things about building a team is where do you find the teammates? Like, for you as a writer, because you're a writer, you're an editor, and you're a project manager to some things. Is there, like, talk to me about the differences between that? Because I know as a writer, you get to choose, but as an editor, you're just put together. And with a project manager, how much choice did you have in all that?
Even as a project manager, usually I'm not picking out, like the writer or the creator, because I'm freelance. I'm not actually working for a company. Not usually anyways. Usually that's more up to the creator. But what I will do is give them a list of people and go, you know what, these are some people that I think might be really cool and will show off some things. I remember one time, one of my favorite people to work with, present company accepted, of course, is her name is Leanne Ingino, LK Ingino. Great lady. And she is like, she makes all these huge Excel spreadsheets. And she was looking for an artist for one of her books. And she had this huge spreadsheet. And it was like, if there was sections of, I really like, these are the top people that I'm interested in. And then, if that doesn't work, then down here and down there. And she had their general budgets. If she knew what their page rates were, she had them in there and stuff. And it was just an amazing list. And so we would go and we were checking out all of their portfolios. And I remember she had her top guy. She was like, this guy's my top guy. He's going to be him. And I checked him out and I immediately said, no, he's not for us. And she said, wait, what? And I said, yeah, he's not for us. And she said, why? And I said, because he has this huge portfolio filled with tons of beautiful pictures and one piece of sequential art. She was like, okay. And I'm like, he only has one page of sequential, which is his way of saying, I don't want to do sequentials. I want to do covers and stuff. So he either is going to give, and this isn't always the way, but he's either not going to be excited about it, just straight up not going to want to do it, or it might be something he's not as quick at or whatever, So if they don't have a lot of sequentials, that should tell you right away, either they're not interested or they're not good at making a portfolio. And if they're not good at selling themselves, then that's an issue completely separate, but it's still an issue.
And I'll just quickly add on and then give it to D. A lot of writers have paid people to learn how to do sequential work. I can't tell you how often I've worked with an artist and they don't know what they're doing sequentially. And you have to go in and Stan Lee it and take pictures and show them references for what you really want. Storytelling for an artist isn't always that simple. And if you're seeing just this flash pinup art, be a little mindful of that. That's why when we come back to price, if someone's not showing you sequential and they want to charge you sequential rates, they got to be able to prove it. There's nothing wrong to politely ask, hey, I don't see any sequential work. Can you please show me the sequential work? And then right then and there, you'll know. And there's nothing wrong with working with an artist who doesn't have sequential experience, but they have to be reasonable to take down their price because you're now going to be teaching them. And there's nothing wrong with us teaching each other, but as a writer, you're going to have to be way more involved. D, what do you got?
That was one of the things I was going to comment on from an artistic perspective. Like, you're only as good at your artwork and your page rate is only going to be worth what you can prove. right? So if somebody comes to you and says, you have beautiful artwork, I want to do this comic with you, or I want to do, I want you to do my cover. If you can't prove to that person that you can do it, you shouldn't be charging professional rates. You should be charging student rates, learner rates, like budgeted rates, because you are going to have to take the time to learn how to do what they want, right? I know a lot of people who, I work in animation as a day job. My animation day job rate is really fucking high because I've done it for 7 years, 10 years, right? If you come to me, I've got the experience, I've got the portfolio to back that up. But if you come to me for comic book work, I've only been in this industry for 2 years. I can't charge you a Marvel rate for color or for art. I'm not that quick. I know that's not my skill set. If I put it in the computer and I animate it, yeah, I'm golden. But if you want me to tell a story in still images and color them my rate's way lower because I'm not as experienced. Now, as I do get experience, I can raise my rate because I can put those pages out there and show you that I've done it. And I think a lot of artists are like, this is my best piece, so I'm going to put this piece up. But if you hate doing that piece, if that's not the piece you want to do, if you don't want to do covers, that's not what you should be showing people. Even if it's the best work you've ever done, you need to show people what you want to do. So I want to go into color. So I've been coloring pages and I'm not ready to put them out there yet because I'm not willing to charge a rate because I don't think they're good enough. Yeah, the artist, like, you're never good enough. You got to get over that. But putting them up on my site, it's saying I'm able to do this now at a timeline that's reasonable, at a rate that can be paid, right? And I'm willing to put myself out there to get critiqued on it. If you can't take feedback on what you're putting out there, then you're not ready to go into a professional relationship. So that's something that I think a lot of artists need to know, especially self-taught artists, because it's really hard when you learn on your own to take a criticism or a critique. Understanding that it's not a personal attack is a big thing. And I think a lot of people who get into professional relationships see somebody coming back at them in a team building exercise as you're not good enough. And that's never the case. Well, it shouldn't be the case. If it is, get out of that relationship. I was wondering how you guys deal with something like that when somebody's either I don't want to say ignorant or irresponsible, but somebody who maybe isn't as experienced working in teams comes up against a criticism that they can't handle. Like, how do you deal with putting together a team that not only works well on paper, but works well personality-wise? Like, how much does that affect how you put the team together?
Well, I think it's nice that despite it being a team, it's also kind of not. You know what I mean? Like, chances are the artist won't be talking with, like, the penciler won't be talking with the inker, won't be talking with the colorist, won't be talking with. So really, and the only person who might be talking with that person, let's say we're talking about the penciler to start with, will be the writer and maybe the editor. And probably no one else down the line, unless they already have a relationship or whatnot. So it is a team building thing, but it's also, they mostly just need to be able to handle the critiques of one particular person. And you know, at that point, if they can't handle critiques, then maybe this isn't the business for you. Or if the person is overly critical, which is, I've certainly seen that, where someone is just overly critical, that's when, and we said we wouldn't talk about this too much, but that's when your contracts will come into play, because you'll say, look, I allow for this many sets of edits, and make sure that that's in your contracts. You get this many passes. And if we're on pass 3, because usually the way I've seen it is you get 2 passes. If we're on pass 3, either I, as the penciler, am not good enough for this job and I'm not going to do it, or you're being overly critical and you're going to have to pay me to do another pass, one or the other. And that's up to you guys to figure out.
In advertising, we call that scope creep. So you get each phase of the advertisement, right, gets a certain amount of budget and time, right? If you can't communicate your revisions in a clear amount of rounds of revisions, you usually get 2. Sometimes if you're really like stuck for something, you can have 3. But like if you go to 4 revisions, there's a communication problem. And like that's when things break down and you're like, nope, it either goes or gets canned. Like those are your options. So I think probably that happens a lot in comics too, I guess.
To answer your question, I've actually struggled with this because I come from a managerial background, and artists, editors, letterers, there's more of a sensitivity because they don't share the common goal of getting the comic book out sometimes as much as they're there just to do what they want to do and further their career. And that was a learning curve, to be completely honest, early on in my career. I was too nice at a time, and then I was too overly stuck in my ways. I think I've had to realize that as the writer, you're also the producer of the project, which would be an editor in chief in Marvel Comics. You basically become that. Even if you're not the editor for the project, you're running, like Chuck just said, everyone goes through you. It's your desk. And Chuck's even offered with me to be the in-between guy. And I'm like, no, they need to know it comes from me. I need you to be the guy who's doing the edits, because I like to have the team get together at times, and I like the team to know who's working on it. I also like to know, hey, this is my money, my call, and we're going to do it this way unless you guys are teaming up. If it's a team up, it's completely different. When you collab, you have to have a different feel to it, and then it has to be every voice in the room. But if you're paying, it's your call, no one else's,
Right.
Yeah.
and they know what they signed up for. But you have to, and I cannot stress this enough, you have to give the carrot as much as you give the stick. You have to learn how to really talk to people. And that has been something I struggled with earlier in my career. And I'm starting to realize I have the ability to do it. And I have to try harder to communicate properly. And sometimes you got to give bad news. I have fired people in the comic book industry. And I'll tell you this, if you know you have to fire them, do it quick, do it fast, replace them and get the next person in. Do not struggle through something, especially early on. If you're having troubles, that is, take the loss on money. I've lost thousands of dollars in this industry, found ways to use the art I did have, so it wasn't a complete loss now, and I moved on. This is comics. It'll break your heart. It's difficult. It's not easy. The cream will rise if you let it, and that comes down to a standard. Don't accept anything below your standard. And me and Chuck had a conversation where I said Cat Dad and Supermom kind of leveled me up. I can't go backwards anymore. I have to make sure the storytelling's on point, because now this is my new standard. This is what people expect from me. And ever since then, I will pick apart a panel page because I know I've been doing this. Over 20 releases, going on to 30 this year. I've done it. I've ran through it, so I understand it. But I also understand there's a human element to this, and they're not just employees. And you want them to be there after the project's done to talk highly about you. And reputation. That's the next topic that I want to bring up. That segue right into this because that was a perfect way to do it. On a Sunday afternoon, I can post now, literally on my own Facebook page, which has gotten beat up over years of abuse from people reporting and downplaying because of things I do for other creators and the advocate thing. Still to this date, 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, I can say, I need a letter. I get 20 people. I need an artist for a project. I get 25 people. I get inboxes for days after that. I could say I need a colorist, same thing. But I've built a reputation for that. For the newer creators out there that couldn't just do that, explain how important building that reputation is and give them an idea where you think they can go, Chuck, and then we're going to follow up with D. I'm building a team if you're not known. Because I know in the beginning, no one would work with me. It took me drawing my own shit and being like, this is horrible, but this is how passionate I was. After back surgery, where people were like, shit, that guy's dedicated. I want to know him. And I built a following off that.
Well, so one of the things that people forget all the time is that the financial aspect of making a comic and that RE getting a paycheck, that's only part of your payment. The other payment is the credit. It's actually having the finished book and being able to show it off and say, I did that, that was me. And that's so important, and people often kind of forget about that, because being able to show that off, talk about it, it's huge. And so you need to finish things. If you go out there and do things, I've had people that I worked with where they would pay me and we would do it, and then they'd scrap the project. And it happened. I had a couple particular people that I worked with where it happened several times. And so finally they said, hey, I got this new project. And I said, whoa, no. You need to understand right now that my credit, that book getting done, is a payment to me. when you flush something down the toilet, you're flushing my credit with it. You're flushing part of my payment. So part of that reputation is just fucking finishing a book. And sometimes that means that maybe the book's not perfect. Maybe there's some problems. Great. Make another one and do it better. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is those credits do matter. We were talking earlier about my credits, and I can't tell you how many credits I have that technically I don't count because no one can find the book. It's not, oh, dude is so indie that I can't find the book. No, it didn't get finished. It didn't come out. So I can't really count it because you'd have to do personal research, actually seek out the creator and ask them, did this book ever happen? Did Chuck actually work on it? That's not worth it. It's not worth having to mention. So finishing these products, making them happen, that's the start of your reputation. That, and like we said before, when you go seeking out people, tell them this is a paid project. That's a huge thing. Telling them right away that it's a paid project. And you know what? If people don't like your budget, sorry, man, it's my budget. It's all I have. I'm not saying you're not worth it. I'm just saying I can't pay it. And that's okay. Because there might be someone who, and there's always a deal to be made where you can be like, look, I can only pay you this, but I'll give you partial ownership or whatever. There's all these deals that can happen, these things that you can do to make it more worth their time. And if you can't work it out, great. Then sadly, they weren't the person for your project. But there are a lot of different things that you can do to make that happen.
And please, for the love of God, do not question anyone's rate. If they say that's their rate, accept it. You can ask to bargain, but do not question on why they think they are worth that. That is unacceptable because it will come off as an insult. To say, I have a project, I really like your art, could you drop it down to this? That is fine. That is bargaining. And like Chuck said, you can give some ownership. Do not, I swear to you, do not try to say, well, I don't think you're worth it, because saying, I don't really think that should be it. That is so bad. Just like writers talk in a room, I guarantee you artists talk in a room. That's why I pay my artists up front. You will never find an artist out there that says I haven't paid them, because it does not exist. I've been screwed over by artists. And I'd rather have that reputation that I get screwed over and I don't screw people over than the reverse reputation.
Well, and that's a good point. And speaking of that, my first project that I was ever on was a book called, what is that book? And They Call Us Monsters. It was the first book I was ever brought on. I had never intended to be an editor. But someone, and I won't say that it was Mr. AnderSiN, put out a call and said, I want to try out a new editor. I don't have any money at this moment to do anything. It's going to be for credit. If anyone's okay with that. And, people are going to badmouth you right away. But look, if someone needs it, they need it. And I was actually at that point. I didn't have any credit. No one knew me. And I was like, how am I going to get into this business as a writer if no one knows me at all? I need to do some stuff. So I was like, fine, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, really? Absolutely, I'm in. So I did this project for free. It came out. He was very happy with it. And after a while, I pushed it. I helped push it on Kickstarter. I did everything I could. We developed this great relationship. And he was so happy with the end product and with everything that happened that I got a check in the mail. And he was like, hey, man, you did a great job. You earned this. So thanks. And I was like, holy crap. That was not something that he had to do. But now he has raised his reputation because, A, he paid me when he didn't have to. I did the work. And I raised mine by doing exactly what I promised I would do. Yes, it was free work, but I promised I would take it professionally. I did. He was happy with that. And it worked out well for both of us. And look where we are. So that's something to consider as well.
Yeah, and back in that point in my career, I just wanted someone who's passionate about comics. It was literally just a test of who really wants to work, because I wanted to work with an editor and I wanted to build a relationship. Everyone will sell their service, but the person who's willing to earn the respect in the community was someone I wanted to. And if you look at the history me and him had in the books we put out, Dad and Supermom, that was not a bad way to get into this.
No, I think we worked out pretty well.
sometimes you want that passionate person in your team. Plus, I knew with my dyslexia, I was going to have to work with someone who's willing to take time. Because I'd worked with some editors already, just right away, like, oh, well, you're doing this. Look, you're a fucking editor. That's what you're supposed to fucking do. Fix those things. Like, why are we talking about that? You can't pick apart the story, so you're talking about comics. I couldn't deal with that shit. Like, it was frustrating me. And I was honest with Chuck. I'm like, look, I'm dyslexic. I have dysgraphia. I'm not going to see missing words. It's just, you're going to have to literally tell me sentence by sentence where I'm missing something. And we found a good method to actually work.
We actually developed a shorthand, which was really cool.
And
we ended up doing it so that
I've read a couple of Rob's stories and I go back and I'm like, Rob, I love you, man, but I don't know what you mean by this sentence. And he's like, oh, I think it might be missing a word. Hold on. I'm like, I need clarification. So I don't know how to read Rob yet.
It's so, like, I mean, I almost want to say it's its own language, but like, you know, at the end of the day, he's a super passionate dude, and every once in a while, you might just have to say, I would actually contact him and be like, hey, dude, sentence, you know, like paragraph 4, sentence 3, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. And so I'll say, send me a voice message of you, like, just tell me what you're trying to say there. And so he would do that, and I'm like, oh, I see. Okay, this word, and that's the problem, is that part of what Rob does is his voice to text. So sometimes they'll get the wrong word. They'll get like a homonym or something.
Right.
And so I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, now I understand it's a homonym. I know what he's trying to say, and I can change that up and make that effect. So it's one of those things where some people, they're going to require different things, and you just have to learn to work with that.
Right.
Yeah, and we are running out of time. We can do a follow-up to this show. I'd be happy to if you guys have to.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, one of the things I do want to add before we go out is to not only check out both of these amazing creators' profiles and their information that's in the spot right here, but go to comicbookadvocates.com and actually subscribe and see content like this. We're going to be bringing back some learning opportunities in coordination with Comic Book School at times and the Comic Book School community. I want to thank Dee and Chuck for being here, but one last thing I just want to give to everyone out there is integrity matters. Don't lie. Hit your deadlines. Make sure you pay the people you say you're going to pay. I don't care if you got to borrow money. That's your problem, not theirs. Deliver on Kickstarters. Don't bullshit people. If something gets lost in the mail, you send another one out. Don't put your Kickstarters out in anything but Gemini mailers or an equivalent to a Gemini mailer. And finally, I can't stress this enough. You don't have to like everybody, but you don't have to shit on people publicly. There are a lot of people I don't get along with, and I just let it go, and I've let it roll off my back because this is an industry. We can't be seen arguing over stupid little things. Like, if you're having a debate with someone, that's fine, but the minute you cross and you start being nasty, disengage, walk away. It is your reputation you're going to hurt in those moments. There's no reason. You're never going to win. There's no winning the internet, kids.
To that point, know who you vent to.
Yes. Oh, we talked about this the other night. Like,
right?
And I'll say this.
There are people that say they will have your back. You make sure that shit's true before you tell them that you had a bad experience with someone. Because you can't have bad experiences with people and say, look, that guy wasn't the greatest guy for me. Maybe he's great for your team, not for me. Like, that's one way of saying, hey, this was not the guy I worked with. But don't go talking shit to people, and don't vent especially if you just need to get the anger out to someone you don't know isn't going to go back to that person and say exactly what you said. So just watch yourself. You know, the internet is a crazy place.
And just to quickly add to that, if you're a person who you know someone is venting to you and they're doing it in confidence, and you screenshot that and put it in public, you're the scumbag.
Yep.
You're the piece of shit. It's one thing if you fall out, you're no longer friends and someone's abusing you. That does happen, and I think that's okay to call someone out when they're crossing lines and they're abusing you. But if you had a friendship and it falls out, everything until that moment that friendship fell out, you better keep it to your fucking self. Because when you don't, everyone knows who you are. And trust, it'll fuck up your career for a very long time.
That's a reputation.
Yep. I thank everyone for being here. I thank all of you guys for watching. If you want further questions, please give them to us. It's important that we all learn together. I'm happy to do this stuff. Chuck's always willing to come in and talk to us. And if you have a topic you want, just let us know. That's it. We're out. check us out.